It is that time of the year where we talk about what games you should pick up or pass on for the Nintendo Switch for Christmas time. I've got 4 stacks here. Some games you definitely have to have, some games you want to watch out for and maybe not pick up, then some games that are awesome that you might want, and then last but not least, new releases that you'll definitely want to grab. So let's go ahead and go through all of this because there are some amazing games in this list. Starting off, we've got the must-have, and these are games that if someone just got a Switch, these are games you must have and you got to start with, but also these are kind of older games. The Switch has been out since 2017, and so some of these games are a little older. First off, we've got Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This game is absolutely amazing, but again, this is from like 2018, so it's been out for a while, but it's definitely still worth picking up, as well as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This came out on the Wii U. Let's be honest here. This has been out for like 10 years at least by now. So it's one of those games that if you have a Switch already, you probably have this, but if not, you definitely need to pick it up. And then we've got Animal Crossing New Horizons. This game is absolutely amazing. It blew up during 2020 when it released and is absolutely awesome, but it's not one of those games that you see people talking about still just because it is so old. And then we've got the 2 early top hitters for the Switch, Super Mario Odyssey and Zelda Breath of the Wild. These are both absolutely amazing games, and if you've got a Switch, I would definitely suggest you picking up both of these before anything else on this list, because these are those 2 quintessential games from the Switch that you must have. So if you're going to pick up anything, you probably want to definitely have these in your collection at some point. But let's go ahead and talk about some games you definitely don't want in your collection. Now, not all of these games are bad or terrible to play, but some of them are just a little mediocre and not really worth it. Starting off with some Mario sports games. I love Mario sports games, but Mario Strikers Battle League and Mario Tennis Aces were just kind of middle of the road. They weren't anything to write home with. They came out, I got them, I played them for a little bit, and then I set them aside and never picked them back up because it just wasn't there for me. Then we've got Kirby Star Allies. And you're thinking to yourself, a Kirby game on this list? Yes, but that's only because the Kirby games you want to pick up will be later in this video, so make sure you watch to the end. This one is probably the worst Switch Kirby game if you want my opinion. And then games you definitely want to stay away from that are kind of similar is Crayola Scoot is pretty much a rip-off, knockoff of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, but with skateboards. And then Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 is also on this list. This game is a bad knockoff and not fun. This game, however, doesn't really play that well on the Switch. I have it on the Xbox, and it's much better there. So maybe shy away from it for the Switch. And then we've got Garfield Kart Racing. Again, this is a Mario Kart knockoff, and I think there's better kart games out there, so I would just skip on that one. And then we've got Avatar: The Last Airbender. And honestly, I love Avatar, don't get me wrong. But this is pretty much just a PlayStation 2 game ported to the Switch. It doesn't control all that great. The graphics aren't that great. They did not do a good job with this game, which is a shame. And last but not least, I'm going to add Splatoon 2 to this list. Now, the reason this one is on the don't pick up list is because we'll talk about Splatoon 3 in a bit, but if you want to play, you're probably going to want to play Splatoon 3, and it'll be easier to get in matches. And so if you already have this one, it's awesome and definitely well worth it, but I would probably try to pick up Splatoon 3 instead. Which then leads me to this pile, which is the games that I think you might want, but you might not. It just kind of depends on what kind of gamer you are, because there are definitely some amazing games, but it's not going to be for everyone. First off, we've got Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. This is an absolutely amazing game on the Game Boy, and they remade it, and it looks just crazy. It is great. But it's not one of those like top tier games. It's kind of in the middle here, but it's definitely well worth picking up if you're into stuff like that. Then we've got We Heart Katamari. This is Katamari Reroll. This is an amazing game. There's actually 2 on the system that are both games that I have absolutely loved. So if you've ever played Katamari games, you'll enjoy this, but if not, it just may not be for you because all you do is roll around and get bigger, and it's a ton of fun, but it's kind of a weird concept if you've never played it. Then we've got new Pokemon Snap. If you played Pokemon Snap on the Nintendo 64, but you never grabbed this game, it's definitely well worth it. It's a ton of fun, and I pretty much played this game until I 100%ed it. Just kept going over and over through the maps. It was totally awesome. Speaking of Splatoon 3, I had to add it to this list. Now, I know this kind of added to Splatoon 1 and Splatoon 2, but this is probably the best version to play, and everyone's playing it. So if you're going to play one of the Splatoon games, this is the one to have, so definitely go out and pick that up. Nintendo Switch Sports is one that I didn't really know where I wanted to put this one because I do think this is a ton of fun and well worth it, but it's not quite Wii Sports. It's up there, but it feels like it's lacking some stuff, but it's definitely fun. If we get like a Nintendo Switch Sports Resort that does everything, maybe I'll change my mind, but for now, I think this is kind of middle of the road. You might like it, you might not. Then a game that I feel like was hard to figure out where to put it because of kind of how it is. Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy, all on Super Mario 3D All-Stars. These games are absolutely amazing, but if you're not a retro gamer, you probably don't want these. Or if you already have these games on those respective systems, you probably may or may not want this. Plus, this game is going up in price right now. It's kind of a little crazy. It's maybe sitting at like 80 to 100, which is kind of crazy for a used copy, but it's definitely well worth it if you are into those types of games, which I definitely am. And then we've got Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. This is an absolutely amazing remake plus some stuff. I don't know what you want to exactly call this. It's a Wii U game that they ported to the Switch and added a bunch of content. It's definitely worth your money and well worth playing. As well as we've got Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe. This is a Wii port. This was on the original Nintendo Wii, and then it was ported to the Switch. It's definitely better than Star Allies, but it's not the best Kirby on this list, so you'll want to wait to find out what that is. And last but not least, in this kind of middle tier is Detective Pikachu Returns. This is kind of the middle tier because a lot of people didn't play the first one on the 3DS because of when it came out, so people were just not really that interested. I absolutely loved it, but this game does involve a ton of reading, and so if that's not your thing, you might want to pass on this, but it's a ton of fun, and I really enjoy the puzzle aspect of it. And that brings us to the best games I think that you could pick up for the Nintendo Switch, maybe in the last year or two. There are some good games here, but I left off a few to see if you guys would notice. However, Super Mario RPG just came out, and like I said earlier, this is a remake of a retro game like some of the other games on this list, so take that as it will. If you are interested in retro games, this is a ton of fun. It's a game from the Super Nintendo, and if you've never played it before, that's perfectly okay. You can pick this up, and you aren't missing anything. It's definitely one of those games that I'm so close to beating, but I haven't done yet. Then we've got the Kirby game you've all been waiting for on this list, Kirby in the Forgotten Land. This is absolutely one of my favorite, probably my top 5 Nintendo Switch games because this is so much fun and definitely well worth it. But speaking of a game that's kind of in the same place as Kirby's Forgotten Land is Pokemon Legends Arceus. This is an absolutely amazing game. If you ever wanted to be able to play Pokemon where you could run around and see Pokemon and avoid them if you don't want to catch them and grab them if you do, this is the way to do it. It makes the grinding aspect feel less as grindy as it is, and I just absolutely love the open world feel of this. It's definitely a Pokemon game you've got to have. Then that brings us to some of the newer games that have released in the last few months. We've got Pikmin 4. This did absolutely wonderfully, which is absolutely awesome. I love this game. I have so much fun. I can still throw this in my Switch and kind of sit back and relax and play this and always enjoy it. And then we've got the two heavy hitters, and I don't know which one of these games I think is better. I think I have an idea, but Super Mario Bros. Wonder is absolutely insane. This came out like 2 months ago. It's definitely up there. It probably should have been higher up on people's list for Game of the Year, but that is what it is. This was something we got that was new and innovative for the Mario franchise, and I absolutely loved it. But then we also got this year Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which is absolutely amazing. This took everything that was good on Breath of the Wild and just improved upon it. I think this should have been Game of the Year, but that's my opinion. Baldur's Gate and all those other games that were nominated were definitely well worth it, but honestly, these games are probably games that I think are must-haves, that are newer games, and the games we talked about earlier, which started this video off, probably should have been those must-haves as well. These are all amazing games, so check out these all. If you're interested, you should be able to find these pretty easily. But I'm going to get out of here because I got to go play some more games that I can't quite tell you about yet. But check out that video out if you haven't already. These were some absolutely amazing games for the Switch, and some that you should definitely avoid that I think were worth talking about. So I hope you find what you are looking for the Switch this Christmas holiday season. So I'm going to get out of here, so make sure you check out that video if you haven't already.